On today's episode, Tanya and I will talk about embracing changes as you learn to love yourself first. Busy mom. Tanya stumbled upon the truth that she made it her responsibility to make her husband and kids happy. Previously, she had a victim mentality. With this mindset, she put herself at her family members' beck and call. After her realization, she began the process of changing the family dynamic. There was resistance from her family at first, but Tanya persisted and change did happen. Tanya Biddle is an accountability and self-empowerment mama coach. Hashtag mouthful. She's a professionally trained coach for working moms with teenagers. Tanya specializes in holding space for the beautiful mamas while they rediscover themselves and support them to create the next season of their lives. Grab your coconuts, whatever that means, and be ready to be inspired and empowered as... Welcome, Tanya, to the Coconut Soul Spirit. It's a blessing to welcome you here today, as I know that you have a beautiful self-love story that's going to inspire other women. And in fact, let's jump right at it. Could you please tell us what your self-love story is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nikky, for having me here. I really appreciate this opportunity. My self-love story, it really started sort of back when I was 18. That's when I first met my husband. I'm 51 now, so we've been together for a very long time. And at that time, my highest priority was making him happy. And I thought, that's what girlfriends do, and then that's what wives do. And then our kids came along, and happiness was my greatest priority. And, I got to the stage where, I was in my mid-30s, and I was absolutely miserable. Everything on the outside looked perfect, but the house, the family, the dog, everything. But I was just so unhappy. And the reason why I was so unhappy was because there was no self-love. There was nothing. Like I was my own lowest priority, and I had taught everybody else that that's where I belonged as well, at the bottom of everybody's list. So discovering self-love for me was, there was lots of anger and lots of resentment, but also lots of determination and lots of courage and lots of, little steps to start moving myself up my own priority list and believing that that's where I belonged. So that's, that was my self-love story. And like, there was a lot of internal resistance from me. I'd spent my entire life believing that, my job was to make everybody happy and to take care of everyone's needs and to fix everybody's problems. And I very rarely took time out for myself to do, the things that I enjoyed doing, and to take care of my emotional health and not so much my physical health, but, it was a really hard lesson for me to learn that in order for me to be able to give my best to my family, loved, I needed to give to myself first, because it feels like such a contradiction that, that you prioritize your needs and you feel like you're neglecting everybody else, but you're not. You're doing what you need to do to give them the best version of you, which is what they deserve.
Wow. It's a beautiful story. And indeed, I know a lot of moms can relate. I know I can. And as you mentioned, I was there and I thought I had to do all those things. And I thought those limits or those obligations had been put on my shoulders by the society. And at one point, I realized it was false. I misinterpreted my environment, the messages I was getting. And I put myself in that situation where I was forgetting myself, but nobody had asked that of me. And like you, I was miserable, really, really unhappy. And you spoke that you had some internal resistance. I'd like to know more about those.
Yeah, so again, sort of that comes back more to my childhood and the environment that I was raised in. So long story short, my dad was he was a very angry man, and there was a lot of verbal abuse, in our household. And so I learned as a very, young girl that you'd never make a man angry. Okay.
Oh,
because
yeah, it was dangerous?
No, not
Okay.
in that. No, definitely not in that sense. So, but it was just
why couldn't you make a man happy? Angry, rather. Why couldn't you make a man angry?
Yeah. So I just learned at a really young age that when you make a man angry, then they yell. They yell at you. So,
okay.
So that was something that I experienced, growing up as I was, when I was a child. And so then the belief system that I developed in that environment was, you need to make a man happy. You have to keep them happy, because if you don't keep them happy, then they'll get angry at you.
Okay.
And so that was what I was avoiding. And I wasn't aware of that at the time, obviously. Years and years and years to work out that, that was where it all began. But I was exactly the same as you. I had chosen, that belief was sort of, within me as a child, but the choices, I had made the choices to make my husband's happiness my only priority, and to make my happiness my lowest priority. And when I discovered that, when I realized that I had chosen that, at no point, you're exactly what you said, at no point did my husband sit me down and say, right, now that we're together, my happiness is your only priority, and that's what you need to spend the rest of your life doing, making me happy. That was a choice that I took on, based on a belief from my childhood. So, so that's where it all started for me. So, and I think that's, and also society, as we grow up, that's still the stigma, is that, you take care, like the mother does most of the work. The mother takes care of the children. The mother looks after her husband or her partner. So, I think there's still that stereotype that we're fighting against. And so I had those beliefs within me for a very, very long time. And changing those kind of beliefs was hard. And I did. The internal struggle that I went through was a lot of guilt. I should be, I shouldn't be looking after myself. I should be looking after my family. So that was where the internal struggle came from for me.
I understand. And when we want to change, or when we want to start to think about ourselves, it's normal to have a lot of struggles or difficulties, because we're used to living that way for a long time. And I know for me, I was afraid to change because I was afraid of that person I didn't know, the person that was going to be taking care of herself. And for you, do you remember the precise moment where you decided that it was time to take care of yourself? So was it a moment, or was it more like a period of time?
I think it was a period of time. But then during that period of time, there was that one moment. So like I said, I was, unhappy for a very long time, and I ended up doing a little bit of group coaching, and at the recommendation of a girlfriend of mine, and we would talk, and it was all about self-love. It's like, what are you doing for self-love, and all the things that you can do. It was like 6 weeks, a 6-week program, and that was all fine. You go through the steps, and you do the workbook every week, and it's sort of, I was really just ticking the box, and trying to stay under the radar as far as, my husband's was concerned, because that's the other thing is, when you start to want to change, then the question that your partner inevitably asks themselves is, well, what does that mean for me? Like, if you're no longer going to do this, then who's going to do it for me? And so that was the issue as well. So, but there was a time during that process where I had a one-on-one session with my coach, and all I did was complain. Like every session, I was bitching and complaining about my husband, and she, I could tell she was super frustrated with me. And it was getting towards the end, and I wasn't making any progress. And she's like, "You do realize that you made this choice?"
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "When did he tell you that it was your responsibility to make him happy?" And I'm like, "Okay, no, he didn't actually say that." She's like, "Right, well, you chose that. So now you can choose not to be responsible." I'm like, holy shit. That's amazing.
That's life-changing. That's a nugget right there.
It absolutely was. It was like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I'm like, oh my God, like it's not my responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it also changed the image that I had of him as well, because it suddenly dawned on me that he wasn't the asshole that I thought he was, because
Yes,
he wasn't doing this to me.
exactly.
So like it really sort of flipped my victim mindset that I had going for such a long time, because it was, oh, woe is me, and everybody's doing this to me, and I have to do this for everybody else. And I was the one, like I had just given all my power away. And I was the one that was making those choices. Therefore, I can make different choices.
Oh, that's empowering. Yes.
And take responsibility for the ones that I had made. So, that was the real light bulb moment for me.
And I know that you'll work with women. And before you tell us about that, I'd like to know, how was it for you to take responsibility? And I'm just going to elaborate a bit, because I think it can be freeing to understand that it's not the other person that imposed that to you. You did, but at the same time, taking responsibility is a big deal. We get to be responsible. So how is that for you, Tanya, being responsible?
It was absolutely terrifying. Because you're no longer blaming everybody else.
I know, we cannot do that no more. Oh.
Yes, it was terrifying. And like I said, there was the external resistance, because of course I was, changing the family dynamic, and I wasn't going to be at everybody's beck and call anymore. And everybody was comfortable, including me. In my misery, I was still comfortable. It was familiar, and I knew
exactly
what was going to happen. And I, and like you said, when you start to change, you're not quite sure what the results are going to be, and who you're going to become, and what's going to happen with the dynamic. And so that process, it was, the initial realization was a huge high. I was like, oh my God, this is great. It's just going to be so good. And then, reality kicks in. You're like, nobody wants this. Nobody wants this change. It's just me that wants this change, that needs this change. And so, it was terrifying. Like, showing up every single day. It took lots of courage and lots of determination, and quite a bit of anger there. It's like, no, this is the way it's going to be. I'm not going back to that same squeeze back into that little box anymore. It's not happening. So
good for you.
There's lots of determination, lots of courage, and lots of fear. But it's also, it was very empowering. It was very empowering. Like, it's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, is to start taking care of myself, and not, because what I was trying to convince my family was that it was a two-way street. I prioritize your needs, you prioritize my needs.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy. And of course, that's not the way it worked. It was a one-way street, and I was prioritizing everybody else's needs, and I was just left out altogether.
That, I'm gonna say it as it comes, but that sucks. Totally. So good for you. So now you went through your journey, you decided to embrace who you are, respect yourself, because you're a whole person, and you don't have to serve you can serve others, but you don't exist just to serve them, right? That's like after you take care of yourself. And now you help women. Can you tell us a bit, Tanya, about what you do and how you do it and how you empower women?
Sure. So what I've, a lot of the women that I've spoken to, and I was exactly the same, when your kids are young and they're at school, it's really difficult to find, that time for yourself. And you do often put it off till later. And I know for myself, when I was in that situation, nobody would have been able to convince me that, I could afford to invest in myself, that I had the time to invest in myself, and that I was worthy. And so what happens then is you get to the stage where, your kids are teenagers, and for better or worse, they're stuck on their devices all the time, or they're out with their friends, or they get their first, casual job, and they don't need you around anymore. Within a couple of years, months, you get sacked, like your kids find you. And so the role of, nurturer and protector and nourisher is stripped away from you. And when you've spent that much time, like 12 plus years of your life, doing that one job, it's really hard for women to sort of say, oh, okay, so now that I'm not needed, what do I do now?
Yeah, good question.
It's been a long time since they met themselves.
Yes.
So, there are lots of parts of themselves that they let go, that they shed when they became parents, because they no longer had time for their hobbies, or they, didn't have, the money to do this, or whatever it was. And so, they're at a point where it's like, okay, who am I, and what do I do with myself now? So that's what I work with women to do, is to sort of rediscover who they are. What is it that you like to do? And we start with the basics. All right, let's go with, what is your favorite color? What kind of music do you, because, you've been listening to the Wiggles and whatever else your kids are listening to for the last 12 years. So what is it that you like to do? What kind of food do you like to eat? Because you've been eating, spaghetti bolognese and mac and cheese for the last 12 years. What is it that you like to do? What things did you used to do that you'd like to pick up? What's on your bucket list? What dreams and goals do you have for yourself? Because this next season of your life is starting, whether you're ready for it or not. So let's be ready. Let's empower you to create that season of your life where, it's now your time to shine and to do the things that you love.
I love it. I love it. It seems so basic, but it's true. It comes back to what you said in the beginning. Moms forget themselves. And I love how you've set a path that's easy, and that don't necessarily need to be thinking for many hours, but then the woman can get on that path and slowly go into what really matters and where they want to go now and for the future. That's really empowering. Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for the work you do with those women. And I know that you do have a free gift for our viewers today. And that's how we would be finishing off. So if you could tell us what you'd like to offer them, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I've recently done a trial on Voxer coaching, which I've absolutely loved. So my offer is 13 hours of free coaching. So access to me for 13 hours. And the way it works is it starts, 8 a.m. my time, finishes 9 p.m. my time. And we just message backwards and forwards for the entire 13 hours. We can text message or voice message, and just, start you on that process. Start working out what it is that, that you would like to do, who it is you are, what your goals and dreams are, what's really important to you now, and start sort of coming up with, those values and those goals and those dreams and the action steps that, you need to take, and just start getting you into some momentum. And so that's what I'm offering. So 13 hours of free coaching.
That's generous. It's a lot. 13 hours. Wow, that can change a life. That can get someone started. Oh, wow. That went by too fast, Tanya. It was such a blessing to welcome you today on the Coconut Soul Spirit. And I'm sure that moms are going to be inspired by what you've shared. Not only moms our age, but hopefully young moms, if they could catch on this secret early in time, then they can be ahead in their lives. So once again, thank you so much. And for people who want to take advantage of the gift that Tanya is offering, there's going to be a link right below. Click that link and you'll be able to know how to get in contact with Tanya. Bye.
Thank you.
What a great interview. I'm sure that if, like Tanya, you've asked yourself these questions, what about me? Who am I? And what do I do with myself now? I'm sure that you could relate with what Tanya has shared today. You've probably been empowered and inspired. Make sure to watch her interview over and over again. And as mentioned, then it's time to rediscover yourself again. Make sure to grab Tanya's free gift, 13 hours of free coaching. Click the link below.
I drove drunk in 2010 and I broke my own neck.
Mm.
And
Wow.
if you can only imagine the not only physical aspect, but the mental aspect of
Yes.
trying to learn why, how, forgive myself, love myself. That's kind of where everything started, was this really traumatic event that I caused and trying to make peace with it.